In the sports world, everybody likes an underdog story. A team that has all the odds and bets against them, and they rise to the occasion to come out victorious. Of course, the team on the losing end of this is not so happy. This wasn't the case, though, in the World Series in 1919. The Chicago White Sox were defeated by the Cincinnati Reds in 8 games in a best-of-9 series. Chicago was favored over to win by Cincinnati in a landslide. Chicago wasn't upset because they were taking a side payment to intentionally lose the series. The White Sox met with gamblers and were offered to lose the series in exchange for money. They fixed the World Series, and then they were later caught and punished for their actions. In 1919, the Chicago White Sox were a decent hitting team. They were batting .300 average as a team, which is average with other teams. It's a decent hitting. And they were slugging .750, which is better hitting than an average team. According to John Lamb in 1919, in the 1919 White Sox essays, Eddie Sincott wanted to fill out Bill Burns, former American League pitcher turned gambler, about finances a series fix. So this was a take that the players approached the gamblers with the idea of fixing the World Series. Other accounts have that the gamblers were approaching the players, and it was a mutual thing. Well, according to audio and grand jury testimonies, it was revealed that the players were approaching the gamblers in getting the series fixed in exchange for money. It is not as if the players were getting underpaid. At the time, the Chicago White Sox in 1919 were one of the top paid teams in the MLB, but they still wanted to make that side money. So they fixed the series with Bill Burns being their connection and Eddie Sincott representing the players. The deal was also made with Lefty Williams and shoeless Joe Jackson, both leaders on the team, both also leaders in this scandal, in exchange for $100,000. They went on to fix the series. Evan Andrews of History.com says pitcher Lefty Williams gifted the Reds a 4-2 win after walking 3 batters in a row. This was the second loss of the series. The first loss came the day before when the Chicago White Sox lost 9-1 to the Cincinnati Reds. They said that there was never another playoff game before or after where the ball was thrown around and botched so much and so many errors were committed by one team. The Reds go on to win the series 5-3 in the best of 9, combining for 35 runs and only 22 strikeouts in total as a team. John Thorne of New York Times says the Black Sox scandal was the original sin of baseball. As some know, in religion, the original sin is the Adam and Eve biting into the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, and that sin being passed on to anybody else wanting to enter the religion before being baptized. Well, this was baseball's original sin because it was the first major scandal to hit the scene and hit media. This was not the first scandal in general. A prior one, for example, was how the Black Sox scandal was founded and created and looked into. In 1920, in August, a regular season game was rigged between the Chicago Cubs and the Philadelphia Phillies, and gamblers were involved. This went to grand jury, and the teams were found guilty of rigging the game. A video of the 1919 World Series shows the Cincinnati Reds hitting, Chicago White Sox are on defense, and a ball is hit into a double play position, and the White Sox botch a double play, and it is very obvious that there was no effort given by the players to get the out and to get out of the inning. That raised suspicions for that World Series. Prior to that video being released and the investigation between the Cubs and the Phillies, there was no alarms going off of the 1919 World Series of any players or media. So the Black Sox scandal was said the original sin by John Thorne in New York Times because it was the first major one to hit media, but it was not the first game in general. But these players eventually did get punished. As we said, after the 1920 game between the Cubs and the Phillies was being looked at, they looked into the 1919 World Series. 1920, 8 players were dubbed the Black Sox, and they were found guilty in grand jury. It was Chuck Gandil, Eddie Sincott, Lefty Williams, Charles Risberg, Happy Felch, Fred McMullen, Buck Weaver, and Shoeless Joe Jackson. These players were said to have been very calm during the series and the years or months following after being found guilty, and it would seem very suspicious because they were very calm, and after being found guilty in front of a grand jury, they did not react as everybody thought they would. In 1921, in June, the confession tapes of the players vanished, and it was suspected that gamblers were involved as well, but they were never found again. So in August of the same year, they were found not guilty. They were acquitted in grand jury and did not have any federal charges pressed against them. But not even 72 hours after being acquitted in grand jury, the Commissioner of Baseball banned all 8 players for life from any affiliation with the MLB. So, in conclusion, the 1919 Chicago White Sox were a good hitting team, one of the highest paid in the MLB, but they still wanted to make some more money. So, the team members met with Bill Burns to throw the World Series. They lost in 8 games to the Cincinnati Reds, and they were off the hook until August of 1920 when they were taken to court for fixing the series after red flags were risen after the August 1920 game between the Cubs and the Phillies. They were eventually acquitted, but then banned from baseball and all MLB affiliation 2 days later. That is the Black Sox scandal.